Hi Yogi, and welcome to another slow flow practice with me, Oceana. In today's class, of course, we're heading into week 2 of side bends. So that means that this is an open level class that's suitable for beginners as well as advanced students. I will be throwing a few extra intermediate options in the mix for you in case you're up for a challenge today, then you can take those. And we'll also be adding a new feather to our cap in terms of techniques that help us to improve our side bends. So today I would like you to focus your attention on grounding into the floor. So for example, if I'm thinking about side bending to my right, then I'm actively using my body to really ground down the left side of my body here into the floor, making that strong connection, which then actually allows me to move the upper part of my body more deeply and find more length and space along this top left side waist. And hopefully that will become really obvious because we are doing quite a lot of seated side bends today. And of course, I would still like you to work on the techniques that we started with last week. So think about lengthening through both sides of the waist as you come into the poses. And when you're there, think about breathing into the part of the body that you're compressing. So if I'm moving towards my right, I'm compressing my right rib cage and actively thinking about breathing into that side of the lungs so that I'm not just collapsing here, but I'm very much lifted through the breath and keeping the integrity of the pose, keeping it safe. So hopefully that'll all make sense once we get into a little bit of movement. The only thing you need today in terms of props is a blanket, but I do highly suggest that you get it because we will be using it in various different ways today. And then we will meet on the mat in a tabletop position once you're ready. Join me there. So before you come into your tabletop, you may already wish to set yourself up with the blanket underneath your knees for a little bit of extra cushioning because we will be here coming through our limbers just for a few extra moments. So knees hip distance when you get to tabletop, shoulders directly on top of your wrists, index fingers pointing forward, inner elbows spinning towards the front of your mat and keeping your elbows gently unlocked. From here, we're going to move through a couple of side cat-cows. So you're going to try to bring your spine into a banana or C shape here. So take an in-breath in the center. As you exhale, draw your left ear towards the left hip. Exhale there. Inhale to come back through the midline as you exhale, right ear towards the right hip. Inhale through center, exhale, come back to the first side. Inhale center and exhale second side. One more time, moving with your own breath through each side. And when you come back from your right side, we'll meet in the center and we'll take this into a couple of tabletop circles. So start to circle your shoulders on top of the wrists, the knees under your hips, and we'll slowly start to expand those circles outwards. So potentially you might even find that your sitting bones come all the way back towards your heels. You might notice your shoulders are able to go slightly past your wrists so that we're really limbering into all of the major joints in the body here, or almost all of them, I should say. And you might even build up a little bit of speed here on your final couple of circles in this direction. And gently here we find stillness in the midline and we'll reverse the circles. So again, starting really small and gradually increasing the circumference of the circles, making sure that they're really nice and fluid. And over time, we might, again, take the sitting bones all the way back. We might find a little bit more fluidity, a little bit more speed and momentum, but we could also actually slow it more down, this movement. So yogi's choice here, you can have a little bit of free play. And gradually here, again, finding that stillness in the center. From here, tucking the left toes under and lifting the left knee off the ground. We'll pulsate forwards and back into and out of our left big toe so that we start to pulsate and limber a little bit into the muscles running along the back of that leg, into the tendons and fascia on the bottom of the foot, the toes, the Achilles tendon, all of that juicy stuff. And then slowly from here, we'll keep the weight going back. So we're taking this into a little bit more of a static calf stretch, just for a breath or two here. Gradually here, bring your shoulders back on top of your wrists and then spin the heel to the ground. Make your left fingertips light and reach them all the way up towards the ceiling into a supported side plank variation. So optional here, you could stay in this version, especially great if you're working on your balance. Otherwise, you could spin your bottom foot behind the knee so that you create a little bit of a wider base, which usually helps with your stability and balance if that's a little bit tricky today. So from here, as you inhale, we're going to reach the top arm all the way forward. Pinky finger edge spins towards the floor. You feel that really deep stretch along the left side of the body. And then as you exhale, take the top hand all the way back and overhead. And we'll move here through those circles 2 more times on this side. Really slowing that movement down more than you might like to, but feeling into just the minutiae, the little details of it. And this time, as you reach the top arm forward, stay there just for a brief moment with the pinky finger edge down, really pressing the outer edge of your back foot to the floor, feeling that lengthening happening along left side of the body. And from here, shift your weight forward into your right hand. See if you can float the left leg, maybe flexing the left toes towards your face. And if that feels fairly steady and easy, then as you exhale here, we're going to draw the top knee towards the top elbow, coiling in. As you inhale, lengthening out. 2 more times with the breath. As you exhale, draw the top elbow to the top knee. Inhale, lengthen and reaching through the heel and the fingers. Final time here. Reach out as you inhale. And then bring your top hand down, bring your top knee down, find your way into your tabletop. We're going to slither our way to the floor. I'm going to see if I can bring my hips all the way on top of the blanket, which provides a little bit of extra support and cushioning again. Hands come outside of your mat at shoulder height. Tent the fingertips so you have these little teepee tent shapes. And then lift the elbows towards the ceiling, really plug the shoulders towards the spine. Gently lift through the chest, peel the spine up. See if you can minimize just a little bit of weight into the fingertips, but not too much. Exhale to come down. 2 more times here with the breath. Inhale, lifts the chest as much as you can, using the muscles in the back body to get you there. And exhale to come down. Inhale, lift. And exhale to soften down. Keep your hands under your shoulders as you inhale. Press yourself up to tabletop. Take your knees as wide as is comfortable. Big toes to touch and come all the way. Sitting bones towards the heels into child's pose, Balasana. Take a couple of breaths, allowing your spine and body to reset before you come into the second side. So it gives you a little bit of time to feel any difference of those asymmetrical postures in the left side of your body. Compare that to how the right side of your body feels right now. And then find your way back to tabletop. Again, if you're using that blanket, plant it underneath your knees. And from here, this time we're tucking the right toes under, shoulders on top of the wrists if they're not already, having a brief few moments to pulsate forwards and back into and out of our right big toe. So we're limbering into the bottom of that foot, stretching a little bit into the toes, the Achilles tendon, the muscles, the fascia along the back of the leg. Especially, I tend to feel this mostly in my calf, which tends to get a little bit tight. And from here, we'll send the weight back, keeping it there just for a brief moment, holding that static stretch. And then shoulders come back on top of the wrists. We're going to spin the right heel to the ground. Right arm lifts very slowly as you inhale into your supported side plank on the second side. Now again, optional to stay in this version, or you can bring your bottom foot behind your bottom knee with the toes tucked under, which gives you a little bit more stability. And again, 3 times here, the top arm's going to circle with the breath, but we're changing the breath slightly. So on an exhale, take the top arm forward, spin the pinky finger edge down and bring the fingertips towards the floor. As you inhale, reach the arm back and overhead. Exhale takes you forward and towards the ground. Inhale takes you back and overhead. One final time, see if you can really slow the movement down, slow the breath down at the same time. And this time, as you reach forward, keep pressing your back heel down, or the outer edge of your back foot down, reaching and lengthening forward through your right fingertips, creating that space along the right side of the body. And gently here, shift your weight into your left hand. See if you can float the right foot off the ground with the toes flexing towards your face. As you exhale, if that feels stable, right elbow towards the right knee, coiling in on the exhale and lengthening out as you inhale. 2 more times with the breath. Exhale, knee to elbow. Inhale, reaching forward and back. Final time. And gradually here, top hand spins down, both knees hip distance. We slither and slide our way back onto the floor, belly to the ground, maybe hips supported by our blanket again, tops of the feet pressing down, hip distance. We're going to have the hands by the sides of the hips here with the palms facing up to begin with, coming into full locust. So if you know you have any kind of lower back pain or compression, then keep your feet hip distance. Otherwise, glue your inner legs together as if you are zipped up in a camping bag. Or a sleeping bag, I should say. I don't know what a camping bag is, guys. I just made that up. So press into the tops of your hands and then lift your chest off the floor, float your big toes off the ground, reach the toes back, reach the crown of the head forward. So focus on that length. And as you inhale, you might find a little bit more height. Maybe you can even float the arms either side of you, with the palms facing towards the ground now, so that you're opening the chest and shoulders a little bit more. And see if you can stay for 3 more breaths, allowing the inhale to lift you up and softening just a fraction on the exhale. Gradually, exhale, come all the way down. Plant your hands underneath the shoulders, press your way up to a tabletop. Briefly remove your blanket from underneath you, and then hands shoulder distance or pinky fingers all the way to the edges of the mat. As you exhale, bring your sitting bones up and back into a downward facing dog. Feet hip distance with the heels tucked away behind your toes. Spin the inner elbows forward. Feel free to keep a really generous bend on the knees during your first downward dog. Maybe you're having a little pedal through the feet like I am. Maybe a little shimmy of the hips left and right, so you're kind of wagging the tail of the dog. And gently from here, bend the knees deeply so that you can walk the feet forward towards your hands, feet hip distance once you're there. As you inhale, hands to the shins, we lengthen the spine halfway, rolling the shoulders back, crown of the head reaching forward, trying to create that almost straight line of the spine, reaching away from the hips. And as you exhale, soften knees, keep that length in the spine, fold the belly towards the thighs, come all the way into your standing forward bend, shift a little bit of weight into the balls of your feet. With soft knees here as you inhale, round through the spine as you come up to standing, stacking one vertebra on top of the next, allowing the shoulders and head to lift last. And once you arrive, giving yourself a moment to settle down, for the crown of the head to lengthen upwards, the shoulders to soften. And we'll take this into a standing side bend. So deep bend on the knees here. We're shifting our weight across into the left leg and then seeing if we can step the outer edge of our right foot to the left edge of the mat. Right arm reaches up and overhead into that standing side bend. And option one, of course, to stay here. Option two, you could use your left hand, wrap it around the right wrist and see if you can draw the right arm a little bit further across. And from here, seeing if you can find your grounding, so pressing actively into your left foot and the outer edge of the right foot so that you can lengthen a little bit more through both sides of the waist. And finally, seeing if you can connect to your breath and direct it towards your left rib cage here. On an inhale, bend your left knee and come back to center for a moment. Lengthen up in your upward salute, Urdhva Hastasana. Feel the difference from the left to the right side of your body. And with soft knees, as you exhale, fold all the way back into the legs. To Uttanasana, standing forward bend. Bend your knees really generously. Allow your sitting bones to come down and back. Inhale into your invisible chair, Utkatasana. Spin the pinky fingers in. Wrap the shoulders forward and around. On your next exhale, float all the way back into the legs. Inhale, hands to the shins, lengthen the spine halfway. Crown of the head reaches forward. And keeping the spine long as you exhale, fold back into the legs. Plant the hands at the front of the mat. Step your left foot one leg length back and then spin the heel to the ground. From here, you can shimmy your right foot towards the outer edge of the mat, preparing for Warrior One, Virabhadrasana One. As you inhale, lift both arms, torso facing the front of the mat, the ribs knitting together so that you are connecting the front body to the back body, actively pressing into the outer edge of your back foot and the front big toe, pinky fingers spinning in. Straighten the front leg, left hand to the back thigh, right arm reaching for the back of the mat as you inhale into your reverse triangle. And let the inhale float your right arm forward. See if you can land the back of the hand to the inner thigh, maybe the inner calf, possibly all the way to the brick, to a brick, or all the way to the floor. Left arm lifts up for Utthita Trikonasana, extended triangle pose. Now, option one to stay here, seeing if you can roll your lower rib cage forward, top ribs back in space, taking yourself deeper into that opening of the twist. Or you could reach your left arm forward, again, pinky finger edge spinning towards the floor, which takes you a little bit deeper into a side bend variation here. And final option, if you want to test the strength across your side body, then maybe you're able to float your lower arm off the ground as well, still maintaining ease of breath and length across both sides of your waist. Bottom hand comes down first, top hand joins you there. Then walk your fingertips over towards the left edge of your mat. Turn your toes to point towards the outer edges of your mat with the heels spinning inwards. Deep, deep bend on the knees as you inhale, coming up into horse pose and seeing if you can draw the sitting bones down, reaching upwards through the fingertips and the crown of the head. And here we'll take this into a little variation that's called shoulder dips. So we'll have the hands with the fingers facing in on the inner thighs. As you exhale here, allow your left shoulder to roll forward. Have a little peek over the right side. Inhale to come back through center, lift the crown of the head. Exhale, right shoulder forward, peeking over the left side. Inhale through center, exhale back to the first side. Inhale up and exhale to the second side. One more time with your own breath on both sides. And this time, once you come back from the second side, facing to the left, inhale to reach the arms all the way back up. Spin from your back foot to point all 10 toes forward in a high lunge. Feel free to bend your back knee a little bit to remove that arch in the lower back. As you exhale, frame the front foot. Step it all the way back into your downward facing dog, feet hip distance when you get there. Yogi's choice to stay here to take a rest in child's pose, or we come through a vinyasa as you inhale, coming forward, shoulders on top of the wrists in a high plank position, lowering down via the knees or one straight line. In slow motion, tuck the elbows in, take your gaze to the front of the mat and come all the way onto your belly. Optional to come into your upward facing dog or pressing the tops of the feet down, roll the shoulders back as you inhale to lift the chest into cobra pose, bhujangasana. Let the exhale float you back via the knees or one straight line to downward facing dog, Ardha Mukha Svanasana, and we'll meet there. Spinning the inner elbows forward, pressing through index finger and thumb to lengthen the sitting bones up. And then soften the knees, walk or step the feet forward towards the front of the mat. Feet hip distance when you arrive. Lengthen the spine halfway as you inhale, crown of the head reaching forward, and soft knees as you exhale to fold back into the legs. As you inhale, round through the spine, again stack the vertebra. As you come to standing, let the shoulders and head lift last. And allow your body to briefly take a moment to settle, find the grounding through the four corners of the feet when you get there. Here we'll take this into our side bend on the second side. So deep bend on the knees again, shifting our body weight to the right leg and then seeing if we can step the outer edge of our left foot towards the right edge of the mat. Left arm lifts up and overhead into that first version of the side bend. And again, optional to use our right hand, wrapping it around the left wrist to draw the left arm a little bit further across, taking ourselves a little bit deeper into that side bend here. And again, same principles. Can you find that connection into the ground through your right foot and the outer edge of your left foot? Can you lengthen a little bit more through both sides of the waist? And then can you finally direct a little bit more breath into your right rib cage? Let the next inhale bring you back to center. Feet hip distance, lift up through your fingertips. Again, feel that difference from the left side to the right. And with soft knees as you exhale, swan dive all the way into your legs. Deeply bend your knees, sitting bones down and back, preparing for Utkatasana chair pose. As you inhale, lift the arms, spin the pinky fingers in. And let the exhale swan dive you back into your legs for Uttanasana, standing forward bend. Lengthen the spine halfway as you inhale, roll the shoulders back. Exhale, plant the hands at the front of your mat. Step your right foot one leg length back. Again, spin the heel down and feel free to, of course, shimmy your left foot a little bit to the outer edge of the mat, preparing for Virabhadrasana 1, Warrior 1. Deep bend on the front knee, pressing into the outer edge of the back foot and the front big toe. Spin the pinky fingers in. And again, have that sense that you're knitting the ribs towards one another, closing off the front of the body to protect the lower back. Right hand to the back thigh, straighten the front leg as you exhale, coming into that reverse triangle, reaching left arm back. Use the next inhale to bring yourself all the way upright and then reach the left fingertips forward. Land the back of your left hand to the inner thigh, maybe the inner calf, or all the way to a brick, maybe the floor itself. Right arm can reach overhead. And again, you can stay in this traditional version of Utthita Trikonasana, triangle pose, or see if you want to maybe take the right arm up and overhead with the pinky finger edge spinning towards the floor. You're still actively opening the chest by rolling the lower ribs forward, top ribs back. And again, final option here, actively pressing into our front big toe, seeing if we can lift the lower arm off the ground, using the side body to support us here safely in an unsupported triangle pose. And then very gently, bottom hand comes down, top hand releases. From here, I'm going to briefly change sides so that I'm facing you again. We're going to walk the hands over towards the right edge of the mat. This time, spin all 10 toes to point towards the right side so that you have the feet parallel to one another. And from here, deep bend on the right knee, right hand under the right shoulder. Lift the left arm up into a gentle twist. Just briefly expanding the chest upwards. Then left hand under the left shoulder, bend the left knee, right arm lifts into that twist on the second side. And slowly release the top hand. From here, allow yourself to maybe bend the knees, allow crown of the head to come towards the floor. Maybe you've got straight legs and you're shifting your body weight into the balls of the feet. And of course, you can have very light fingertips here and maybe find a little bit of free play, a little bit of movement through the spine that you wouldn't be able to access otherwise. So maybe having a few spinal waves left and right. Maybe you're able to lift a little bit, rolling through the spine and the rib cage in one direction and the other. Seeing where there's more freedom, more stuckness, just noticing any sensations in the vertebra of the spine. And maybe finding a moment or two of stillness. And from here, very gently, bend the knees, turn your heels in, toes out. Again, preparing for horse stance on the second side. Slowly rise all the way up. Reach the arms out and overhead, sink the hips low. From here, we'll take this into a little side bend variation. So you can either have right hand on your right thigh or all the way to the forearm. Left arm reaches for the front of the mat. Inhale, come back through center. Left hand or forearm to the left thigh. Right arm reaches up and overhead. And we'll float through that a couple more times. Exhaling into the side bend. Inhale brings us back through center line. Pressing actively the knees away from each other. And as you come back to center here, lift your arms. Again, spin from your back foot, both sets of feet turning to face the front of the mat. You can, of course, bend your back knee to take the arch out of your lower back. And then as you exhale, frame the front foot. On an exhale, stepping your front foot all the way back into your downward facing dog. And we'll take this also into a slight side bend variation. So we'll come really high onto the tiptoes, bending the knees deeply, allowing our heels to roll over towards the right edge of the mat, pressing back through our right hand so that we can lengthen a little bit more deeply the left side waist, really puffing out our left rib cage. And on an inhale, coming all the way back onto the balls of our feet, bending the knees, allowing the heels to drop over towards the left edge of the mat. Again, puffing out the right side of the rib cage and really lengthening that side of the waist, pressing back through our left hand. As you inhale, come back to your traditional downward facing dog. Let the inhale bring you forward into a high plank position, shoulders on top of the wrists. As you exhale, lower the knees, draw the elbows in towards the chest, and then slowly come all the way onto your belly. Now, if you used your blanket in our earlier locust pose and you found that helpful, then please feel free to set that up again here. We are coming back to locust pose and I'm going to give you the option to take it into a slightly deeper back bend. So hands by the sides of the hips, palms facing up towards the ceiling. Feel free to have your feet hip distance if that's helpful for lower back pain. Otherwise, legs are glued together. Point the toes up and back, lift the chest. Once you've established that height, then release the arms, palms facing down, roll the shoulders back. And again, use that inhale to lift you higher, use the exhale to find a little bit of softness. If you want to go further, bend the knees, either catch the outer edges of your feet or go all the way for your ankles. And from here, to find bow pose, we're going to press the legs all the way back so that we lift the chest and the shoulders a little bit higher. And we might even be able to ground our thighs towards the floor behind us. So as you inhale, the belly fills, you get a little bit more lift and you compress back into your legs. And we stay for our final few rounds of breath, allowing the exhale to soften us. Next exhale, come all the way down. Bring your heels towards the sitting bones and gently release the feet without pinging them. Bring your palms one on top of the other in front of your face. Rest the forehead in the center. Give your hips a little shimmy left and right. Very gently here, hands underneath the shoulders. Press yourself up into a tabletop and exhale all the way back to an extended arm child's pose. Again, knees as wide as is comfortable, big toes touching, sending a little bit of weight into the sitting bones from your hands so that you give yourself a really deep counter pose, lengthening the back of the body. And gently walking the hands in towards yourself, rounding up to a seated position. From here, we're going to shimmy our sitting bones towards the right edge of the mat. Right shin comes parallel to the front of the mat, and the left shin comes parallel to the left edge of the mat. So you have a sort of 90-degree angle on both legs. This is deer pose. Of course, if you wanted to go into full pigeon pose, then you would lean forward and you can always straighten the back leg in order to get there. But I actually prefer this version now. If you're noticing that one of your hips is slightly higher than the other, then here you can roll up your blanket and slide that underneath the hips for a little bit of extra support, and so that you can potentially even them out slightly. So then we find our deer pose. Again, we're actively drawing the toes back towards our shin bones. Right hand goes behind your right sitting bone, and we'll do this actively a few times. So left hand, as you inhale, sweeps all the way forward and towards the back of the mat, spinning the pinky finger edge down so that your left shoulder is aiming towards the floor. On the exhale, reaching left hand towards the left knee. Inhale, sweeps the arm forward and towards the back, spin the pinky finger edge down. Exhale to lift up. And final time here, we'll stay a little bit longer. We'll reach the left shoulder all the way towards the floor. So you should start to feel not just lengthening happening along the left side of the body, but also in the front of your left quad muscle. Again, exhale, lifts you all the way back up. Now from here, hands either sides of the hips, we're going to bring our front heel a little bit closer towards the back sitting bone, and then using the left hand to support the left foot coming in front of the right shin. Now, option one is to stay in this version of the legs. Option two, you could bring your left foot to the outside of your right knee, or if, like me, you're sort of made of jello, you might be able to stack your knees on top of one another. You will have the shins in one line and the toes flexing back towards the shins so that you are coming into full shoelace pose. Left hand goes just about a foot away from your left hip. Right arm, as you inhale, lifts all the way up and overhead. We're actively pressing back through our bottom hand to send a little bit of weight into our right sitting bone and really ground that down. And then right fingertips are reaching in the opposite direction, pinky finger edge all the way towards the ground again. And see if you can stay for a couple of rounds of breath, focusing the breath into your left rib cage, the side that's being compressed, so that you're expanding the torso on both sides, but really lengthening through the right fingertips. Use this next inhale to bring yourself all the way back through center. Lift the top knee off, uncross your legs, remove your blanket, and we'll briefly find a moment in downward dog. So feet hip distance, hands shoulder distance, drawing the sitting bones up and back, the inner elbows forward, noticing any difference from the left and right side of the body, any imbalances, any shifts. And then gently bring the knees back to the floor. From here, we'll allow ourselves to come into a kneeling position so that we can do all of this on the second side, allowing our hips to roll over towards the left edge. Left shin goes parallel to the front of the mat. I'm going to slide my way a little bit further forward. Again, we're finding that 90-degree position of both legs. So left knee pointing forward, right knee pointing towards the right edge of the mat. If you use that blanket on the first side, keep things symmetrical by sliding it underneath your hips here as well. And of course, if you did the full pigeon variation on the first side, be my guest to do the same thing on this side. From here, left hand goes behind the left sitting bone. Right arm reaches out towards the right edge and then sweeps towards the front of the mat and all the way back. As you inhale, spin the pinky finger edge down, turn your right shoulder towards the ground. As you exhale, lift the arm all the way up, reach it towards your right knee. And again, 2 more times here. Sweep the arms all the way back. Spin the pinky finger edge down, exhale to lift up. Final time. Let the inhale float you forward, and then we stay a little bit longer here. So we're really actively drawing the right pinky finger edge down, spinning the right shoulder forward, reaching, and equally there's a little bit of weight going back from the left hand towards my right sitting bone so that I'm grounding it down and creating more space. And from here again, inhaling to lift up. Hands either sides of the hips. I'm going to shimmy my front heel a little bit closer towards my back hip. And then bringing the right foot in front of that shin or all the way to the outside of my left knee. And again, if it's easily accessible, then I might wish to stack my knees on top of each other. Maybe the shins can be parallel, or rather in one line, and the toes flexing back towards the shin bones. Right hand goes to about a foot away from the right hip. Left arm reaches up and overhead, spinning that pinky finger edge down on this side as well as we sort of side bending in the opposite direction. And again, I'm pushing into my right hand to ground the left sitting bone down so there's more space for me to reach through the top hand and lengthen that side of the body. And then I'm actively thinking about breathing a little bit more into my right rib cage so that I'm expanding the entire torso. So making it a really healthy and safe side bend. Not just always aiming for depth. But if you do want to go a little bit deeper, of course you can bend your lower elbow just a tad so that you come a little bit lower. On an inhale, top hand brings you back to center. And from here, again, you can lean over to your left side to unravel your legs. This time we're going to keep the feet in front of us, but see if you can bring your blanket so that it's about the same width as your mat. And then again, roll that blanket all the way up. Plant it behind you so you've got this little blanket sausage. Have your feet hip distance in front of you, and with the hands either end of your little blanket roll, slowly bring your spine all the way to the ground, seeing if you can place the blanket just at the bottom of your shoulder blades, so that's just slightly higher than the center of your spine, so that when you slowly bring your head and shoulders to the ground, you should find that the tops of your shoulders, where your trapezius muscles meet the neck, is still supported by your mat, and the back of the head is able to release. The hips are grounded. You can have the feet as wide as the mat with the knees dropping in, which gives you a nice opening in the lower back, giving more space to the sacrum. Or if you wanted to, with the arms by your side in a T shape or bent at the elbow, you could walk the feet forward, maybe even straightening the legs completely with the toes flopping out to the side. Simply finding a position where the body can relax and release into the floor rather than feel any kind of strain anywhere in the body. And you might be able to close the eyes completely or simply soften the gaze towards the ceiling so that you can start to shift your attention inwards towards the movement of your breath and the quality of your breathing. So noticing as you inhale, especially in this slight back bend, the expansion of the front body, the lifting of the rib cage, the belly, the chest. And that softness of the exhale as you're being weighed down by gravity, merging you towards the props and the floor beneath you, almost a sense that you're melting away as you exhale. And see if you can find just a little bit more softness by releasing your lower jaw from the top jaw, by removing your tongue from the roof of the mouth. As the body starts to let go, I'll leave you here just for a few moments of stillness, and I'll bring you back at the end. Seeing if you can rest just for a few moments in quietude. Slowly here, if you've straightened the legs, rebend the knees, bring the feet flat to the floor. Knees pointing up at the ceiling. Bringing your elbows to the sides of the rib cage so that you can lift your upper back and slide the blanket roll to one side. With the palms down by the sides of the hips. See if for a moment you can just allow the spine to rest into the mat, noticing any different kind of sensations, positive or negative in the spine, any unusual feelings that weren't there before we did that restorative back bend. And slowly here, one knee at a time draws in towards the chest. Hug the knees in with your arms. For a moment, give yourself a deep counter posture to that back bend by lifting your forehead towards the knees, rounding the spine. Shoulders and head are lifted off the ground. And gently release the shoulders and head back down. From here, we're going to roll over to our right side if you wish. So right arm can go back, left arm supports you there, or hands underneath the knees, using the legs to build a bit of momentum as you rock through the spine a few times. We'll eventually meet seated when you're ready, either with the shins crossed in front of one another or ankles, heels in one line if you prefer. Any comfortable seat works well. Bring the hands to touch in front of the chest, bow the forehead towards the fingertips, and use this final moment of your practice to plant your sankalpa, your positive intention for the week that's ahead of you, or of course send it out to somebody who might need that good energy a little bit more than you do, even though they might not know that it's coming their way. The light in me recognizes the light in you. Namaste, yogi. So thank you so much for joining me in today's practice. Of course, if you made it this far and you enjoyed your class, then give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. If you want to find me anywhere else online, that information is in the video description. And if you have any questions, feedback, suggestions, I love hearing from all of you, so please pop that in the comments section down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And then hope to see you back on the mat again very soon, Yogi. Thank you for joining me.